Hi, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Christi Clanton. I'm 28 years old. I live in a suburb of Fort Worth, Mansfield, Texas. I am a Tarrant County YR, obviously, and I went to TCU and have a political science and economics degree, and I am running for the Tarrant County College District Board of Trustees. Every county college has a board of trustees, and I didn't even actually know what it was until someone asked me to run. And then I looked into it, and reading the bylaws for what the board is actually capable of doing. They do everything from managing the budget. Currently, they're managing $825 million worth of bond money. A lot of people don't know that our property taxes, whatever county you live in, a portion of those goes to pay for your community college. And the board members have the ability to levy any sort of taxes necessary. And there are even some limitations where if it's within a certain amount, they can raise and lower them without bringing it to a vote in front of the people. So that's why it's really important that we have, good, strong conservatives on there. But more so than just budgetary, the board actually has a lot of power on if the chancellor resigns, they elect a new one. Literally one of the bullet points for what they do is guide public policy of the university. They can change tuition, administration problems, audit the budgets. There's like a ton of stuff. I want to just be, that conservative advocate. A couple of my role models and friends, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, chairman of our Republican Party, and Chris Putnam, former mayor pro tem of Colleyville and candidate for District 12 in Texas. They both preach the importance of getting conservatives in from the White House to the schoolhouse, because it starts in the schools. That's where they've been in there for years, and we didn't even notice it, and now we're playing catch up. So you hear kids at TCC, lying on their papers. I've talked to them where they said that their professors told them they didn't interview a liberal enough person for their assignment. They wanted them to interview this type of person from the Vietnam era, not a Vietnam veteran. What things like that. The TCC administration passed out a book to every professor titled White Fragility, made them read why they should not like being white and how it's hard for, quote, white people to talk about racism. So things like that are very prevalent in the college. But also, TCC isn't just a higher education institution. We also need conservatives on college boards, because not every student goes the traditional education route. We absolutely have to pump up our trade programs. DFW is the 5th most populous or growing for construction jobs and all kinds of trades. And I was looking at some of the programs that TCC's funding, and none of them are trade programs. And they just started one for something like pipe fitting, and I looked into it, and the need's been there since 2018. And they've been putting all their money into these trendy woke programs instead of things like this. And, people take on all this student debt. They push them towards four-year colleges, but really we need to put an emphasis on not everybody has to go to college. There are trades out there that can get people out into the workforce, contributing to our economy in 2 years and making honestly more than I do after I went to TCU. I'm not obviously knocking college degrees, because I have one and I value it very much, but it is not for everyone. I know people who went to TCU with me who took out $250,000 in loans to get a fashion merchandising degree that they don't use now. And so I think, that just making sure that we don't just focus on higher learning, but offering alternatives for the people that don't choose to seek that path. It's a long story, right? Because I've been volunteering in politics and working since I was 18. I'm 28 now, so that's a decade of it. So I will say that a decade's worth of party dedication and service doesn't hurt. I started in college at my college Republicans group. I was very active in that. I was a conference delegate. We had a lot of people come to our meetings and recruit people for campaigns. And this is really how the journey started for me. I was at a meeting, and there was, it's 2018. And I was like, I'm so burned out on primaries. I'm not volunteering this year. I'm going to sit this one out. I'm not going to poll greet. I'm not going to it's like, I'm not doing any primaries. Well, Kimberly Fitzpatrick, who is a district court judge in the area, Tarrant County, she came and spoke. And something about what she had to say, I was like, oh, heck, I'm going to work on a campaign again. So I walked up to her after the meeting, and I reached out and I was like, hey, I really want to help you. blah, blah, blah. Well, it turns out, she had never run before, and she was actually so nervous when she showed up. She told her campaign manager, no one's going to want to help me. Nobody's going to be interested, blah, blah, blah. And so she ended up, I found out a year later after we built this very great relationship, and she went from an employer mentor to a friend to, a mentor and a friend. But she told her campaign manager that day, she goes, actually not that day, it was the first day I showed up for work. She was like, oh my gosh, that girl that says she wanted to help me, she's here and she's helping me. I never thought anyone would help me. And that's the number one thing you can do, is just get involved on a campaign. At TCU, they always preach to us, you might have a political science degree and you think, oh, well, I'm above knocking doors or volunteering. But I tell everybody, the best thing you can do is get out there, stand at a poll station, knock some doors, get on the phones, and show people that you are willing to roll your sleeves and put in the work. And through that, she introduced me to all kinds of other people in the area. I got to meet other elected officials, poll greeting. She was going to help me get into law school, and I kind of bailed on her on the last second after she wrote me all these recommendation letters and went through the process. But I ended up getting a job at a political consulting firm, and my heart was just in politics. And so I took that turn and I worked there, had clients all over the nation. And then I, didn't like commuting to Dallas. So I took a job for the Trump field campaign. And that's really where, the Trump victory campaign in the field. And that's really where I met most of the people, because our purpose wasn't just to get our president elected. It was to work for every down ballot official. So I spent time pretty much with everyone from our congressmen to our state house, school board, everything. So really just, and another part of what, you have to, sorry, this is a windy answer, but there's a lot of things you have to do. I go to tons of meetings every week. Think last week, and granted, I have clients and I'm at forums and stuff, but there are some days where I quite literally go to a luncheon, 3 different meetings after work. You have your Young Republicans meeting, different area clubs, all kinds of stuff. So really just getting out there and going, and just, get your face out there, make sure everyone knows who you are, and make sure that they know that you're a hard worker. This is especially appropriate for a YR, and me being 28, our age range goes all the way up to 40. So I am towards, the lower end of it. And so I thought, are people going to take me seriously? Because I swear it doesn't matter where I go, I'll be talking and I'll be, spouting knowledge and doing all these things. And it doesn't ever fail that someone walks up to me after and they're like, oh, you are so adorable. And then the other day, some lady was like, how old are you, 20? And I'm like, it's a compliment, right? The Botox is working, but I'm like, hey, I'm serious. Take me seriously. Just because I'm 28 doesn't mean that I'm not qualified, that I haven't studied these things my whole life. So that was a little bit of a concern to me, but it's easy to overcome just by getting out there and proving myself. The second was obviously money, and campaigns aren't free, and I work in politics, and obviously that's not where the big bucks are. So I was wondering, will I have enough money to pay for this? And again, I was thinking it was going to be a municipal election. So I thought, yeah, no problem. I've got friends, I have people that would donate to me, and you have to get really, really, really good at the hard ask. And it turns out I've been preparing to ask people for money my entire life, and I am very good at it. So I am not afraid to walk up to a table of people and sit down and be like, hey guys, it's funny, I noticed your name hasn't popped up on my list of friends that are my donors. And I'm like, gosh, must be a mistake. And, they just pull out their wallets, right? And so sometimes it isn't that informal, but that's another perk of just, having worked with so many people all the time, that you can be more informal and they already trust you. But, there are people that I definitely wouldn't sit down and joke and shame at a table like, hey, give me your money. There's a nuance to it, but it wasn't as hard as I thought. And then this one was kind of an afterthought. I didn't even think about it, but it came up even for things like this interview. But anyone who knows me would be shocked. I'm actually terrified of public speaking, which, like I said, is a surprise to people, because one-on-one or in a group, working a room, I have no problem. And my friends obviously think that I never stop talking. And so, but I've guest lectured at TCU. Some of my political science professors have asked me to come back, and TCU is a private school with a great, student to teacher ratio. So there's only like 30, 40 kids in the class. And I swear, I got up in front of them one time and I was like, well, I'm so nervous. And all of them were like laughing. They're like, why? There's literally 30 people. So that was something I had to get over. My first candidate forum was at the Fort Worth Republican Women, and my opening statement kind of equated to, I like school. And so, I had to redeem myself as we went on. And, I got that one under my belt. And of course, all my friends were like, you did great, whatever. And then one of my more honest friends was like, I give it a C-. And I was like, I think that's what I put it to. But then I realized that I might have been over preparing. So for my second forum, I knew the knowledge. I just relaxed. I didn't think about it at all. I went up there and I just spoke my truth and I spoke what was on my heart. And wouldn't you know it, I think I like public speaking now. So I got over that too. The campaigning and the getting elected is a serious time commitment. And that is one thing that people absolutely need to realize when they're committing to something like this. Because if you want to run a real campaign, even in a small race, even if you're running for city council or school board, you have to be out there. You have to be present, especially because I would think that most people like myself are trying to make a smaller budget than some more established people stretch as far as possible. So you have to be willing to kind of take the time and put in the work, unless you have a ton of money, in which case you can pay people to do the work for you. So that kind of alleviates the thing. But one thing is just make sure you choose like an appropriate first goal, an appropriate first race, right? Because I was at the dinner at a happy hour last night with a couple partners from one of the firms I work for, and they were, joking about, a 28-year-old who's trying to run for like city judge and he, something, whatever. And so it's like, you want to make sure that you don't, flop, right? You don't want to make sure that you don't have enough money. So pick something that's important to you. Like I said, I care about education. So find something that you can do, whatever your thing is, if it's pro-life or if it's budgetary money, pick an office where you can enact the change that you want to enact. And then the second thing is just make sure you ask around and consult your support, your family, your friends, your donors, because you have to start thinking about, you have donors, your people that are going to donate their money and their time to you, and talk to them and make sure that you really have backing. Because, sometimes you think, oh yeah, this person will help me and that person will help me. And there's been people I even feel like that. And then when the time comes, a lot of people say they're going to help and don't. So make sure you have a good support system in place. And then third, I kind of, that was one I already talked about. But yeah, just make sure you also just recruit a good team of people. If you have the money, hire good consultants. It is a lot of stuff to keep up with, down to the fact that people may not know this, but if you're thinking about running, don't even tell anyone until you appoint a campaign treasurer, or you could quite literally get kicked out of the race for not following protocol. So there are very little nuanced things that not everyone knows. So find someone, if you can pay a consultant, pay one, or find a friend or a mentor or whatever who can walk you through the process and make sure you're not doing it alone. And then just really be prepared to put a lot of time into it, and blood, sweat, and tears, because campaigning, you got to knock some doors, guys. It stinks. I knock doors every day, and I swear it doesn't matter. I've been estimating it, I want to say 30,000 doors in the past 5 years, or the past, whatever years. And I still, on my first door of the day, every day, I'm nervous. And I'm why? I've done this a million times. But once you get out there, especially as a candidate, people want to see you at the door. Sometimes when you're knocking for other people, it's, no, who cares? But when you're like, this is me and I'm running for office, people actually do care what you have to say. And that is the number one way to reach the people. So just get out there and do the work and get a lot of people to help you and ask for a lot of money.